Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan and Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Leafs in Edmonton playing the Oilers tomorrow night. Last night, Ottawa with a big win. Montreal loses. Boston pumped again. They got pumped again last night. And I saw Kevin Weeks is on with Gino today doing a That's Hockey hit about Brad Marchand and whether or not the Bruins should move off him. And he's a UFA, I believe, after this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got to sort they're in a down cycle right now. They got to sort their stuff out. You know, it's we did it last night. There's 10 teams that are separated by 6 points. And with the Leafs losing, they're right in there now. That's they got to get their act together as far as winning games and stuff and separate themselves. They had a nice little buffer and were feeling good. Now Florida wins, Tampa won yesterday. Like if Florida plays Chicago tomorrow at home, like they've got to worry about themselves. That's a big game in Edmonton for them tomorrow.
I said that yesterday, and Struddy came over the top and was like, why are you being a hater? Why are you being so negative? Which I found fascinating. He was actually supporting the Leafs. And
well, you're allowed to support the Leafs, like, absolutely.
Right, but the point I was making is the one you're making, is like they had an opportunity to run away with this division. And you could apply that to other teams as well. I understand that. But they have squandered that over the last 9 games. They've lost 6 of their last 9 in regulation, and they've pissed away a bunch of points against teams that they should beat or should compete with. And doesn't mean they're going to miss the playoffs, but it could be a scenario where, perfect world, you take care of business, you score goals, you've got all this elite talent, you got a 5-6 point buffer on Florida in your division, and they've thrown that away.
Big time. Yeah. And they've thrown it away in a weird way, because in those 6 losses you're talking about, Hayes, 7 combined goals. Like they're
not scoring right now. It's pretty wild to see. Yeah. And this was a team, like, prior to Craig Berube arriving, they literally never got shut out. Literally never got shut out. And now they've been shut out a number of times this year. And like you said, they're just not scoring. They're not capitalizing on any opportunities, and they don't look overly dangerous.
No.
But Tavares coming back is significant.
Yeah.
Nyes coming back is significant. For sure, but
that's your top 6, right? Like, if you're missing players, and teams are missing players all through the league, but it does test your depth, because if a team is game planning and going, okay, we only have a couple guys to worry about tonight, then it looks different. And the bottom of the Leafs roster has not been producing. They haven't been difference makers. Here a night, here or there, Lorentz gets a goal, or Robertson and stuff like that, but it hasn't been consistent where they've been dangerous. You look at the teams at the top of the roster. I mean, Ottawa had that game in hand last night. It was up 4-2, and Washington goes, we're not going away, and they get a point out of it. Like it just, these top teams have depth that continue to push, and they wear you down. And Winnipeg goes and wins again. Like, that's the one thing I look at. The teams that are at the top of the standings. The one consistent thing, the goaltending, star players, all of that, but they have depth, and they're getting, depth scoring.
Well, Winnipeg's now won 5 in a row. They have a goal differential of plus 63.
Wow.
Which is far and away the best in the league. Second is Washington, and no one's surprised at plus 54. But again, the Leafs are only plus 8 goal differential. Like, they've scored 15 less goals than Florida this year. Like, it is something they've got to rectify. They've got to find a way to break loose.
You look at these last 9 games, like, Matthews has 7 goals, so he's pulling his weight.
Mm-hmm.
Nylander's got 6. Nobody else on the club has more than 2. And only Robertson, McMahon, and Nyes have 2, and then everybody else has 1 or less. I mean, there's just no depth scoring at all.
Well, and that's like Mitch Marner has run into a rut here offensively.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's happened with Marner the last 2 or 3 weeks. He's had a great year, but his offensive numbers, he has blended into games. And it proves his importance, and he's the one that needs to be a guy. He needs to push play, and he needs to put up numbers. But, still
on career-high pace in a contract year.
Yeah,
doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt.
But
with a rising cap,
he's going to be fine.
He'll be okay. I'm sure in the end he'll be okay.
I wasn't on the show yesterday, but watching that Minnesota game, like, I don't know, I was joking, like, It looked like Minnesota had 7 guys on the ice. Like where the Leafs turned, they ran into a Minnesota player. Like I thought Minnesota really checked the hell out of them, which,
early in that game they did for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
there just was no space out there. And I thought the Wild did a really good job that way, limiting time and space for a lot of guys. Edmonton plays a tighter defensive game,
that's
too.
That's playoffs hockey, isn't it? I mean, that's what we've been talking about. Oh, Craig Berube is supposed to be here to push the right buttons to get them to break through that, right? Yeah. Like everything's about playoff hockey and preparing for the playoffs. And I'm curious what they bring tomorrow night, because it's going to be a fun night. It's electric. It's Saturday night. It's in Edmonton. You're playing McDavid. The Oilers are playing great. You're getting Tavares back. You're getting Nyes back. I don't think Stolarz will start tomorrow, but it's possible. It sounds like he's going to be activated and play again. That's certainly good. Be in the lineup. So that's a big boost for them. And they got to get going here because, the Leafs have lost 6 of 9, and you got 4 games before a 2-week break. Joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's our TSN hockey analyst, Mike Johnson. Johnny, where are you at with the Leafs right now, and how important this 4-game roadie is for them over the next week and a half?
Feels like it's pretty significant for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, you mentioned you have a 2-week break, so you don't want to be sitting there chewing on 9 losses in 13 games or something heading into a break. That's not going to feel very good. And what probably should feel like a generally positive first 2/3 of the season. They've been in first place in the division for most of it. Their top guys have done well. Their new system's done well. But if you go in sort of this cold and slumping, you don't feel great about it. And then there's the practical aspect of it. Like, Ottawa's 4 points behind Toronto. 4 points. And so this idea that Toronto was sort of home and cooled in a top 2 spot, it was just a battle for first with Florida, and everything else is not even part of the conversation. They've played themselves into a situation where that's not true right now. And so they got to play themselves back into a situation where it is. Good challenge against good teams. I'm going to be out there next week for a couple games. And I think it's pretty impressive. It's pretty important. They're going to have Tavares back. They're going to have Nyes back. They'll be relatively close to full health. Stolar's on his way. Even Yarbrook's going to play pretty soon, I think. And then I guess there'll be no more excuses to not create offense, to not win these games. Because if they can't start winning, then there's sort of bigger, tougher questions that got to be asked.
So 5 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow night is puck drop in Edmonton. It's one of my favorite annual traditions rolling through Alberta and BC. And here's Connor McDavid speaking on that earlier today. What's coming with the Leaf game tomorrow night?
Guys are excited. We get the 5 o'clock start time. It's always nice. They come into our building and we got to change our schedule around. But, it is what it is.
So I guarantee the first 18 years of his life, he loved that, right? He had no problem when he was up in Newmarket watching 7 p.m.
I just wouldn't want to piss that guy off.
True, but Hayes, of all days, the response would have been, do you like the salary cap of $115 million 2 years? Exactly. Then you play whatever the Leafs want you to play. Okay, you want $17 million?
That's right.
Don't tell me. You can play at 2 p.m. local if you want, 10 a.m. out in Toronto, and you can take a $12 million max contract. So pick your poison. Do you want the revenues? Do you want the growth? Do you want the exposure? Or do you want the inconvenience of 2 hours? Your call.
Yeah.
You tell me what
I
you
think
want
he
to
knows,
do.
and I think we all know the answer.
I know. No, I'm not picking on him. It's tongue-in-cheek. I get it. I'm not taking it seriously. But there's no doubt, especially in Vancouver, the fans in Vancouver get quite
disgusted,
bent out of shape about the fact that they have to change to accommodate the Toronto TV market. Not so much the Leafs. It's really accommodating the television market. But I do find it comical when those sort of complaints are lodged around Canada, really. Like, sometimes Winnipeg is not happy that they're not on CB. Hockey Night in Canada, they might be on a different channel. I'm like, the teams that are on the big channel are 5 times bigger than you. Their population. It's just a numbers game. It's not a personal preference. I always find that a little bit silly to get bent out of shape about those things.
Well, what do you remember about the amount of Leaf fans that show up for this game? Because we had a little bit of a disagreement in the last hour. Noodles thinks the Oilers are the only. Go ahead. You explain what you think.
Let me explain. Out of the 7 teams in Canada, the least representative will be in Edmonton. Calgary, there's more Leaf fans. As far as people in the building, not say the least represented will be in Edmonton. That's the way I've viewed it, being in the building, seeing it. I played in Calgary. I've been in Ottawa for games, all of that. I didn't say that they won't be there. I just said
that. I'm just...
the least represented will be in Edmonton.
Is Edmonton. Is that how you recall it, MJ, or what?
So I didn't play in Winnipeg. I've sort of been in Winnipeg, but Noodles is 100% correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's amazing.
All right.
Now, I never really thought about it when I was playing for the Leafs. You don't really, there's lots of fans everywhere. But seemingly, now that I think back, it feels like there was way more in Calgary than Edmonton. I don't know why. I have no idea why these things happen this way, but certainly lots in Vancouver, Montreal, Ottawa. Yeah. No, Noodles, you are correct. It doesn't seem like on those other rinks, it might be like 30% Leaf fans. In Edmonton, it might be 10.
I said 20, but Hayes and Feschuk wanted to come through the camera at me and choke me out.
I didn't.
And I was like,
that's
I
not
said,
true.
No, I'm joking. I'm saying, I just said they travel. Leaf fans travel well. I've experienced it. I played for the Flames. I'm in other rinks and that. I see it. That in Edmonton, they travel, they get there, but it's just not as big.
Not quite.
That's my.
Okay.
It's a smaller percentage.
I'll grant you that.
That was my point.
I'll grant
there
you that.
would be more Leaf fans in Arizona than there would be in Edmonton. There would be more Leaf fans in Florida than there would be in Edmonton. There'd be more Leaf fans in Buffalo, obviously, but even some of those far destinations playing for Leafs, there's more Leaf fans down there than I guess can get their hands on tickets in Edmonton.
So Johnny, we got these new cap projection numbers today, and obviously the captain over here is now the GM of the Maple Leafs, and he's drawn a hard line, Johnny. He's saying there is no freaking way that Mitch Marner is making a dime more than Austin Matthews' $13.25 million cap hit. I pointed out the math to him that with this $95.5 million projected cap, that even a modest raise of Marner's percentage of the cap that he signed for in his previous contract would immediately put him very close to and probably above 13.25 into the $13.5 million, even if he gets 14% of the cap. The last time he signed, he got 13.4% of the cap. Matthews is getting 15% of the cap. That's a lot of math to say. The agents will be making the case that he should make more than Matthews because the cap has risen. How do you see it?
I'm with the agents 100%. Like, I get it. I get why Colorado says, I don't want Rantanen making more than McKinnon in actual dollars. And I get why Rantanen would say, I'm not making more. I'm making lesser by percentage of the cap. Don't worry about the actual dollars. It's percentage of cap that matters. I get both sides of the argument. And depending on what side you want on, if you're a player, you want the percentage. If you're a team, you want the actual dollars. They both make sense. Mm-hmm. There is something, the fact that Austin's contract is so new, and the fact of the matter is Austin's better than Mitch Marner. Mitch is having an incredible year. He's an incredible player. But Austin's better than him. Like, that would be an easier line to toe on a contract that's only like a year old or year and a half old. But if I'm Mitch Marner, I'm like, hey, this is how it goes. Like, this is the advantage of being up when the cap's going up this way. I remember Luol Deng getting a $180 million contract off for an 8-point season with the Lakers. Like, this is how it goes when you time it right.
Exactly.
So this is the way it works. But one of my other thoughts about this, though, guys, like the player who is going to maximize their earnings more than any other player in the history of this cap world is Austin Matthews. Because he's going to be up when the cap's $120 million, and then he can sign his long-term deal, and he can get whatever. Like, it's amazing how he has timed it really well. But my first thought about those things, like, of course, Hayes, your thought goes to Marner and to resign, and what's that mean for Tavares and all this extra money in the system. Two different thoughts. One, the players will all be asking for more, as they should. There also will be way more competition amongst good teams for players. It used to be just that the teams that are at the bottom of the league had the cap space, right? And do you want to go play for San Jose? Do you want to play for Chicago? They're no good. You dump in an extra $10 million per year per team, all of a sudden good teams are going to have lots of space to sign players. That's going to be very different. But the other part is, how can the league be this confident about where revenues are going to go? And that's why the cap will go up. It tells me immediately, first thought, there's going to be expansion in the next couple of years. Like it's such a moneymaker. Mm-hmm. Like the new franchise, they're always cap positive players. I think that's going to happen. And then the new television deal in Canada is also something that's going to be there, and the new CBA. I think they've all kind of the league's got a pretty good eye on all those ideas and how they're going to work out and where the cap's going to go.
Absolutely. And listen, I have no issue with any player asking or negotiating for whatever they want. It's not an anti-player stance. It's that my point is, if you're the team, you're the manager, you're responsible for team building and applying a philosophy. And my thought goes to the Leafs will probably end up just capitulating and saying whatever it's going to take. That's been their history. That's what they've always done. Willie, what do you want? Okay. Mitch, what do you want? Austin, what do you want? I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm bracing for them just doing that, and whatever Marner is demanding is what they'll probably end up giving him. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But if I'm running things, at some point you have to have a backbone and you have to have a team philosophy. And I would argue the last time they gave Marner those percentages, it was a massive overpayment. Massive overpayment, and it's time to rectify that. And furthermore, forget your own internal cap. If you're saying this guy is going to get a percentage that's going to put him at, let's say, $14 million, you know who's making $14 million start next year? Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
You know how embarrassing that would be for the Maple Leafs to have to explain that they're giving the exact same deal that Draisaitl just got for Mitch. There's no explaining that. I'm sorry. There isn't. You cannot run your operation giving out money like that. You can't. There's no explanation for it.
You know who'd be more embarrassing for? Leon. I mean, I'm saying that respectfully. That you're a much better player about to start a contract with a guy making the same as you, then you didn't do a great job getting as much as you need or want or care to get. I don't know. I mean, Chess's point is well made. I mean, if Marner, when his contract started at 13.4, you give him that now, that's like $13 million.
Yep.
You're going to have to give him more than percentage of the cap than Nylander got. You're going to have to.
Why do you have to do that?
Because he's better than William Nylander.
How much better is he than Willie? Is he Is he really
He's
that much better than
He's
Willie?
higher on the TSN midseason player rankings.
He wasn't on the projection, the top 50. Willie was ahead of him 3 months ago. Willie's going to score 45 goals. I mean, how much better is he than William Nylander? I don't think
whatever degree, he's better.
Okay, in your opinion,
so he's got better numbers.
Is he in the playoffs? Does he?
Well, not in the playoffs.
Well,
He has he has better points per game.
Is he a better playoff player than William Nylander?
Well, how do you judge William Nylander's playoff performance? Points and goals and wins
and impact on the team.
Same.
Yes.
So, how does Willie impact the team? Points and goals, not with great defensive plays, not with killing penalties. So if it's points, Marner's got more points than William Nylander in the playoffs. Obviously, way more in the regular season. Goals, Willie obviously has way more in the playoffs. In the regular season, the goals are actually much closer than you might anticipate. So I'm conceding it's close, but Marner with he's better. Whatever. And in the playoffs, it's even closer than the regular season. But you'd be hard pressed to make a super strong argument that Marner doesn't deserve a little bit more than William Nylander. Well, and that puts him very close to Austin Matthews with the new cap.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, Johnny, we're all talking, this is speculation. Mitch Marner controls his future. Like if he decides that he wants to play this out, you're going to use that cap space to go and try and replace Mitch Marner. And Mikko Rantanen might be available. Sam Bennett's going to be, there's guys that, you might be able to pick your poison and reshape your team. All of this is, I think you kick the can down the road, but everyone's pointing to Mikko Rantanen gets traded and Colorado gets a return and they get some stuff. Like, it's different with Mitch Marner, but you might be able to use that currency to reshape your team if you don't like the way that it ended this season. We're talking about, if they don't have success in the playoffs. Which is important to point out. And it's not just a Mitch thing, clearly. Right. But Mitch will be the one that's up. If they crap out again, and it's 9 years with one playoff win, you would think they're going to say, okay, well, we've got to change something. Again, I'm not holding my breath because I've been saying that for 3 or 4 years. They may not. They may not, based on the way that they've operated for years. But if it goes awry again, and they're just going to continue to do it and do it and do it, I mean, it becomes more and more difficult to explain. Now, maybe it goes the opposite way, and they go on a great run, win a bunch of rounds, maybe win a cup, and then it could be a completely different situation, obviously. But if I'm the Leafs, I'm not doing anything until I see how the playoffs play out.
Yeah. Listen, they're all fair points, and there's some risk involved in that because You could have a great run, and I think the risk in taking it longer, though, Hayes, I do think I don't imagine the price is going to go up significantly higher unless they go win a cup or something. Like Mitch Marner is going to ask what he thinks he deserves, and he makes a pretty good case that he deserves it. And whether they win one round or two, that's probably not going to go up or down. But it does offer you more information, and if you wanted to go a different direction, but it would be, you could take $12 million, and it's not going to be easy to replace Mitch Marner in any capacity. We know that. Like, there's not that many good players out there that would be available. But this is going to be fascinating. The whole dynamic of players and contracts, it's just going to shift now because squeezing every cent and trying to make trades and the salaries, all of it is going to be a little bit easier to navigate with the cap going up. And that's just 3 years. I'm assuming years 4, 5, and 6, it's going to continue to go up by $8 or $10 million a year or whatever. So, like, you're talking $125, $30 million in 5 years. The most valuable thing in the league right now is if you're sort of like a quasi-star player who's just starting a long-term contract. If you're Nick Suzuki making 7.5,
great
4 years
deal.
from now, that's going to be an absolute bargain. Any team who's got a player like that, all of a sudden he becomes more valuable as the term becomes more valuable than less as the cap starts to go up this much.
That's all I could think about, Johnny, is the deal. Like, Ottawa hasn't done anything. They haven't made it to the playoffs, but they've got a lot of those guys. Jake Sanderson's going to make $8 million for the next 7 years. Like that. That's a pretty value contract if they get through to the playoffs. If they turn the corner as an organization. Guys on long-term deals. I keep thinking, like, Zach Hyman makes $5.5 million. R&H 5.1. Like those. These deals that were signed, and I know commitments and all of that type of stuff, and who knows, as age, there's going to be drop-off. But the guys making $5 million, that could be a fourth liner if you don't go crazy at the top of your roster.
Yeah. A lot of flexibility, man. A lot of flexibility.
You will not get upset when your third liner's making 4.5 or 5. Like, it'll be like not an afterthought, but it won't be like the contract that has jammed up the whole club. It's just going to be so different. And it's exciting. It's good for business. And one other thought from the Toronto market. For the last 20 years, the big markets have not, yes, they can spend more on player development and scouting and facilities and travel, but they haven't been able to spend much more on players. And I think as it gets to 110, 115, 120, like, you're going to start getting to a point where some teams will be hard-pressed or will not want to go to the very cap, unless they absolutely have to try to contend. And that might be a chance for Toronto or the Rangers or the Flyers or the Red Wings or the Blackhawks or the Habs or whoever, the big market teams, to have a little bit more financial ease to get all the way to the cap if they want to. That's going to be one other sort of change over the last 20 years where it hasn't been the case.
Yeah, again, it's bygones are bygones. It's done now, but a part of me also looks back on the way they negotiated the first deals with Matthews and Marner and Nylander. If they all had 8-year deals, you'd have them for another 3 years at their original price. Like, will he be making 6.9 for this year and next? If they held strong on 8 years, if they got Austin for 8, he'd be making 11.6 for this and the next 2.
But had there been no COVID, they would have been also really set because the cap already would be at 100.
More than likely, that would have been the case.
Right. So they were particularly hit because they had got all their guys to relative long-term contracts, and then the cap stood still, and they lost that sort of uptick in the cap advantage. So yes, bygones be bygones. I know, but you're not wrong. But they also were some things that were completely out of their control, like COVID, that hurt them more than maybe other teams.
So to clarify, would you be comfortable with Mitch Marner making more than Austin Matthews?
No.
If you're the GM.
No.
Thank you. Okay.
No.
So what do we do? What are you guys talking
yelling
about
and
then?
screaming about for 15 minutes about it.
Like, you guys are arguing with me like I'm a dummy, and then you agree with me in the end.
No,
okay, continue.
But he's going to be close, and he'll be closer than you wish he was.
No, I'm fine. Listen, I want to clarify this. Mitch Marner is a superstar, phenomenal player. I think they all equally should be taking the heat for what has happened in the past come playoff time. If anything, the pecking order should be Austin at the top, then Mitch, then Willie. I see Mitch and Willie in a very similar spot in terms of impact on the game. We can all look at it differently. I have fluctuated on that over the years, but I think Willie deserves a lot of credit, especially when you look at what he's doing right now. This guy's playing with, like, Pontus Holmberg and Jacob Quillen. Yeah, it's like Marner's up, and again, Marner's having a phenomenal year, but he gets Austin. Nyes gets hurt. Okay, move McMahon up. Willie's doing it by himself, but that's neither here nor there. But I totally agree. Of course, he's going to ask for what he deserves. He's going to try to get whatever he can. But if I'm the Leafs, you have to for team building, for a team that hasn't won anything, at some point you've got to step up and say we have to have standards here. And and unfortunately, Mitch is, if he wants more than that, if I'm Brad Treliving and Brendan Shanahan, I'm saying then we just can't accept that. It's not personal, it's business.
And Johnny, I mean, it's not just Hayes ranting and raving here. We've got, in this past week, we just saw a Stanley Cup winning front office make exactly the same argument in trading Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. This is not news. No, it's right. The Leafs are sort of uniquely, and what makes the Leafs interesting is that it seems like they've had this sort of conversation every summer they have it, as opposed to the other teams that pops up every 3 or 4 years.
Right.
But what makes it hard, and Hayes, you're not wrong, but just imagine it's you. Okay, you're Mitch.
Yep.
And I'm management. And I'm like, listen, Mitch, you're incredible, but we got to draw the line. So we're going to give you 13 flat. And I know percentage-wise, you make a case for 13-5, but we just have to draw the line.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to say? Why would you have to start drawing the line with me? And each player would be like, I'm not going to be the guinea pig. I'm not going to be the first guy who takes one for the team when nobody else has. You know what I mean? That's a tough pitch to make to a player when you've seen them maybe not do that for other guys. All of a sudden, you're going to start doing it with me. That hardly seems enticing.
And listen, I get it. And if I'm Marner, I guess there's two things I might say. I would probably continue with the conversation. If I'm playing the role of the Leafs, I'd say no one went above Matthews the last time either. Like his 11.6, that was the height. So technically, they applied the same philosophy to Mitch 6 years ago and said you're not getting more than him. But what they did was they offered him less years, and I could see that being the case here. The Leafs have proven they want these guys to be happy. They love these guys. They love them as Maple Leafs. I think they envision this dream scenario, which I would love to see play out. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see the dream fulfilled here where they all stick together and they all win and they all retire as Leafs. That would be amazing. That'd be an incredible story. I could see a scenario, though, where it is presented to Marner, and this is up to him to figure out if he wants to do it. We're going to draw the line on the money, but do you want the 4-year deal like Austin? You can have a 4-year deal and come back up again in 4 years. I don't know if that's great business for the Leafs, but I could see them doing that. And how is that a bad deal? If you're Mitch Marner and they offer you a 4-year deal at $13 million, you're telling me that's disrespectful?
That's not unfair.
That's an unbelievable offer. I mean, it's incredible.
Can never say that. How could you do that to me? I'm like, wait a second.
Right. That's showing incredible respect to the player.
Bad.
Absolutely.
But you're right. But also think of a 4-year deal puts him in a weird spot age-wise, right? Like, what would he be?
That's his problem to sort out.
But that's it, Noodles. I'd say, listen, if you want 8 at 13, then we can do that too. You tell me. Right. You want 4 years? You want 8 years? Anything between 4 and 8, like Austin or like Willie, you tell us. What do you want, man? And if you really want to be a Leaf, and again, I feel like it's deja vu. We've been talking about this for years, but at some point you got to prove you really want to be a Leaf. And it's up to you.
But they didn't do it with the other guys. So Marner says, well, why do I have to be the guy to prove I want to be a Leaf when you've given all these other guys exactly what they want?
Well, again,
we're going to give you the money you want, and we're going to let you pick the term. That's how much we like you, Mitch. You can do whatever you want. You can walk yourself to free agency in 2 years, or you can be a Leaf for life in 8. You let us know. That's how much we love you. You can dictate how long you stay. That's the upside. Absolutely. And if you want to bet on yourself and bet on the cap and bet on future opportunities, then take a 3-year deal. If you want to be a Leaf for life and lock in another $120 million, have at it. We'd love to have you.
Right.
Like, that's a pretty compelling case.
And listen, Dave, if that very well could be his view, and he's entitled to that, and he wouldn't be necessarily wrong. And maybe he wants to test out something else, and maybe someone's giving him $15 million out there. Maybe that happens.
Wow.
But
in this cap environment, you have to think somebody would.
They very well could. And then that would be up to Mitch to determine if he wants to do that.
Right.
I mean, at some point you got to draw a line. That's all I'm saying.
I keep thinking about Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago's got to want to get better, and they don't have that many contracts coming off the books, but they'll be. I could, going after a Rantanen, like with totally, or a Marner, like Chicago with that kind of move for them.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them being a team that would be willing to jump up there and really blow it out of the water.
Yeah, they got to surround that kid with some, and he's got to take another step too. He's still. Like he's still finding his way.
That's the question. Let's say it's take Mitch out of it so it's not emotional and local. Let's say it's Rantanen, right? You can either play Team X, which is a great team you love, blah, 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 winning team, and you're going to make 13. Or you can go to Team Y, which is Chicago, the worst team in the league, and make 14. I don't know. Some guys might take. I'm sure guys look at it differently. Some guys would say, "I'm not taking that extra $1 million to go through that. I don't want to do that. I want to be here."
Here's a crazy.
Other guys will say, "I'll take it. It's $1 million."
You're right. I don't know if you feel this way, MJ. But here's a crazy one. San Jose, I think, is moving in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Like I like their framework. They've gone and gotten a young goalie. They've got Celebrini, who I think is going to be a superstar. I think I look at San Jose a couple years from now. Maybe that's where they go. We can get in on a Rantanen, and we can get in on and have maybe the first year or two is leaner, but. When we're good, because they're going to be good in a couple of years. It's not going to be 4 years from now. They're going to be good in a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm wrong. Johnny, I've seen them live a few times. I don't know how you feel, but I that's where you take a flyer and go, okay, here's 14 for you, Rantanen. Or Mitch, here's play with Celebrini, get him to the next level, because we are on the right path. We've got a goalie, we got young D, we got we've got cap space, and we got all that. That's the only way I could see the overpay would pay off, is you see the future of that, where that organization's heading.
I might. They don't have they don't have Celebrini and maybe the goalie, but Anaheim, great place to live.
Yeah,
you're right. They're gonna have $45 or $50 million in cap space next summer. 50.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go live in Orange County, and, they have some decent pieces there to start, to kind of start working around. Yeah. Like, it just becomes fascinating stuff that you didn't have to kind of previously consider. And we're talking about just next summer, not to mention the $10 million for the summer after that, and the $9 million in the summer. Like, it's every year it's going to happen this way. It's awesome.
It's a lot of money, man.
If you're Kyle Connor coming in Winnipeg, and you make $7 million, and you're sitting there on 30 goals right now, and you're like, oh, hello, Susie. Like, he's going to get – does he deserve more than William Nylander? Probably.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, he's in that boat. He's in
that conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is like $12 million with the new percentages. Yeah, it's a big jump for a guy like him. And the whole thing is really fascinating.
Big opportunity for GMs, right? To mold your team and to weaponize cap space. And a lot of guys have been complaining for a long time that they don't have it. There's nothing they can do. Well, now you have it. Let's see what you got. It's going to be an interesting few years coming up. All right, Johnny. We'll leave it there, buddy. Have a great weekend. We'll do it again next week.
All right, Hayes. Once again, you establish yourself as anti-player in pro management.
Yeah. I'm a suit. I'm a suit. I'm a lower bowl guy.
Hate the athlete, just side with the billionaires, hate the millionaires. Just typical.
Always, man. Always. Thank you, Johnny.
Appreciate
it.
But in the end, he agreed with you, though. That's the crazy part. You guys argued for 10 minutes, and he's like, don't go above Austin.
Well, and listen, in a way, I'm arguing with myself as well, because as an individual player, I understand why you are pushing for whatever you believe you're worth. That's the whole point. It is a business. I'm not naive to that. And Mitch Marner is salivating, and he should be, because he's going to make a fortune. And that's another thing you got to keep into consideration here. Whether it's 13 or 13-7, the guy's got generational wealth for the rest of his life.
Right.
Like, it's not like you're asking this guy to play for league minimum. And
but that hasn't been the point, Brian. The point is about ego and pride and fairness in that dressing room. And if all the other guys have walked up to the trough and gotten this percentage of the cap and this money, Mitch has every right to think that he should walk up next in line and say, I want exactly what they got, tailored to my numbers, and here's what I deserve.
Yeah, and that's, I'm sure, what he'll present to them, if he hasn't already presented to them. Like, I'm sure that will be the case. And then, again, it gets back to where I stand. in terms of the Leafs, you have to make a decision on whether or not that makes sense for you.
Right.
And again, in terms of the playoff history, which again gets lost in the shuffle, if this philosophy doesn't work, something's got to give. And unfortunately for Mitch, it may have to be him.
Right.
If they lose again in the playoffs, I can't stress it enough. I think it would be asinine, even with the cap going up, just continuously doing the same thing. Go out there and spend and find different players and find a different philosophy, because it just, after 9 years, 7 years as a core four, one playoff run, if that's what happens, and I don't know what's going to happen come playoff time, but if that's what happens, I don't know. I don't know how you run your business that way.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could. I don't know if you could justify that.
They've been doing it though.
How's that worked out? Have you agreed with it?
Well, the guy that runs it is still in charge. He's going to celebrate the 11th anniversary as team president, so it's working for him.
11th year?
Shanahan's been here a long time,
in April.
Man. Long time. Wow. All right, Mike Johnson joined us on the Maple Toyota hotline. Count on Maple Toyota for the right winter tire package for your Toyota. Trade in your old tires, buy a new set, and get $40 back. Visit mapletoyota.com. All right, Steve Phillips coming up. Forget $13 million. Forget $13.5, whatever it is, man. Max Scherzer's here for $15.5 million on a one-year deal. We'll catch up with Steve on that. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Mail It In Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This January, well, you got, 6 hours and 20 minutes left? This January at BP, get delicious mouth-watering pastas starting at $11.99 every single day. Enjoy the pastas you love at prices you can't miss. Hustle on your local BP tonight. This has not been a Mail It In Friday, man. We're yelling and screaming. Oh, I love it, man.
I love it. This is a good one.
I love it. Yeah, we're listen, the cap's going up. Deals are happening in the league. We had the Calgary-Philly deal last night. We had the Rantanen deal a week ago. You know, there's a lot going on. Guys are on waivers. Brandon Saad signed in Vegas today.
I thought that was,
Vegas. Of course, Vegas gets him for 1 year at $1.15 million. Good for Vegas. They deserve it.
Yeah.
They need it. They need the help.
Yeah.
You think he's got something left, Noodles?
I do. 32. Expectations are a lot different, right? Like even Doug Armstrong. I watched his presser. I think it was yesterday, and he was talking. He goes, "Listen, he hasn't produced for us. Like Saad's got 7 goals." He goes, "You're making $4.5 million." Like a lot of it is you get looked at different when you make a bigger number. You know, we talk about it all the time. That guy's not doing anything for that number. So Saad is 7 goals at $4.5 million. You can have 7 goals when you make 1.5 or 1.15, right? Because it's like, oh, that's good production. Hey, geez, you know, Adam Gaudette in Ottawa's got 15 goals. He's making $780 or whatever it is. Like, you know, that's what you want from the bottom of your roster. Like anywhere, take it through the league. So Saad can slide in there. He doesn't have to be the guy. He can kill penalties. He's got good speed. I think it's not a reclamation project. It's just hey, the grass could be greener on this side of the fence and farther down in the lineup on a very good team.
Yeah.
Vegas is good.
Oh, listen, if you're Vegas, if you're Saad, you're stepping into a really good team and really good situation.
And if I'm Vegas, I feel pretty good about it because he is actually sacrificing something, right? Like he's actually leaving money on the table to find a new situation with a better team. And maybe to your point, Noodles, maybe it's just a better slot for himself where the expectations are proper for him at this stage in his career. And you got to believe he's going to be motivated to really do well there.
Yeah.
Well, with the cap going up, right? If he has a great stretch run and playoff run, then he'll probably make back everything he gave up in St. Louis.
Well, he left $5 million on the table. O said 8. I was digging into it. It's 5 with the rest of this year and into next year, but it's with a buyout or whatever. It's $5 million.
Amount of money.
A lot of money, man.
But you get $1 million back of that, prorated for the rest of this season. So really, if you sign anywhere next year for 4 or a little bit less, it's just the difference is that much, right? So it's a couple million if he signs for less. If he has a great rest of the season, he might be able to get a $3 or $4 million contract next year with a new team or with I don't know. I feel like Vegas will bring him in and then go, we really loved you, but we're going to move away from you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know,
for sure they will.
Yeah.
But somebody else will give him 3 years at 4 or 3 at 3, and really the difference would be about $1 million, and you gave yourself an opportunity to go win. You know?
Yeah, it's a good find for Vegas. We'll see what Saad's got. And if it doesn't work, then they'll bury him, right?
Yeah,
then he just won't play or whatever. They'll waive him or whatever they're going to do. But Yeah, a lot of activity, even Vancouver, right? We're still waiting to see if they're going to end up doing anything. And if they end up moving off any of those guys, it sounds more and more likely that it could be Pettersson that gets moved. And, there's a guy, he's got a big contract. He's uber talented. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I am still fascinated to see, where Vancouver takes this, because Calgary won last night, but it's them and Calgary effectively.
Yeah.
It's a 2-horse race basically for that second wild card in the West.
And Calgary, I think, got better last night.
Yeah, I agree with Frost and Farabee. For sure they did.
So, and those are 24-year-old and 25-year-old. Frost can slide in as your number 2 centerman if you move Kadri up. Backlund's there. You're going to move guys around, but ultimately, bigger picture, I believe Morgan Frost is 25 and Farabee's 24, or vice versa. So you're going to fit right in with what they're trying to do, retool on the fly. Like, it's a nice move for them.
Yeah, it's a crafty move for Craig Conroy. And Leafs are in there on Tuesday next week.
Yeah.
So we got Leafs Oilers tomorrow night. We've got, I guess, this could be the first weekend without any football in a long time.
Yeah.
That's depressing, man. I was thinking about it last night. Like, I would have paid big money for a Browns-Titans game last night. Like, just give me any Thursday night football. We always complain about it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, brutal game. Jags versus the Titans. Who wants to watch this? Al Michaels is asleep. I'll take it. Last night, I would have happily taken that, because you just don't know what you have until it's gone. And the NFL, we got one game left. And this time next year, next week, we'll be making picks. And Al's brother, myself, we gotta make a significant comeback here. We're down 3 points.
Dave, do you feel, is it just Mahomes and it's a lock, or what? Like, you just can't bet against them?
I wouldn't bet like a fraction of a cent against Patrick Mahomes. It's just
it is silly now.
It's crazy. And
we have multiple times.
I was looking it up. They've won the 3 Super Bowls. I believe they were underdogs in 2 of them, right? Like, Mahomes has been the underdog in 2 of his 3 wins. They're not the underdogs here. They're slight favorites, right? Still, Hayes?
It's still
1.5.
Yep, it's still 1.5.
So,
which I'm surprised that line hasn't moved really
not
at all. Yeah, it's just like everyone's like, that feels appropriate. Basically a pick 'em.
Although I've been reading a ton of projections from different handicappers, and a lot of people make the argument that Philadelphia is the better team.
Yeah,
they've got better numbers. They've got a more potent attack.
Yeah,
but I feel like you can get fooled, because the strength of the Chiefs has never been in their numbers. It's always been in their clutch play.
Their character, their clutch, all of that type. Coaching.
Well, that's a big thing, Noodles, is 2 weeks of preparation for Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. Like, that's dangerous, man. That's a dangerous game. But, Philly's stacked. Like, they are stacked. They have a ton of talent. Their front 7 is loaded.
Yeah.
They're going to get after Mahomes. That'll be the question. Can they hit him? Because the Bills didn't touch him. Like, the Bills just never hit him. Like, there was never any pressure on him. And it's easier said than done, but that's what got Brady. Whenever Brady lost, he was on the ground a ton.
Remember the last time they played, the Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls ago, Eagles, Chiefs, Mahomes was injured. Remember that? He had the high ankle sprain. He was hobbling around. They were hitting him. They were getting to him, and they still won.
Still didn't matter.
Yeah.
That's how good he is. All right, Raptors, Chicago tonight. The Raptors are a favorite, 4-point favorite.
Wow.
What's going on?
What is going on?
Not this train.
They've won 5 in a row. We'll come back and touch on that. Steve Phillips still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Steve Phillips still to come. Leafs Edmonton tomorrow night. Got games in the NHL tonight. The Raptors are in action. Emmanuel Quickly will play, but he's on a minutes restriction tonight.
Okay.
With the Bulls in town. And the last time I checked on FanDuel, the Raptors are a 4-point favorite. They've won 5 in a row. And they're a favorite tonight.
They're suddenly a defensive juggernaut.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Like, and credit to Scotty Barnes, because he is leading the charge on that. He is he's elevated his defensive play a lot recently. And that's the glass half full, I guess, is like, you've committed to Scotty. He's a young guy. You want him to grow. You need to create a culture that's positive. But it's almost February, and you've gone this far. You have to finish the job of being a bottom 5 team.
Well,
yes.
Like, unfortunately.
Right now they're not.
No, I know that. Brooklyn's past them. And Brooklyn is sinking like a stone. They lose every single night.
They're doing it right.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, it sucks. Like, I understand it kind of goes against the winning nature of pro sports and the integrity of sports, but that's kind of the way things have to go. Like, look at Washington last night. The Lakers beat them by, 30?
It's just embarrassing.
Like, Washington is horrendous.
Now, were they chanting MVP for Bronny?
For Bronny? Oh, my.
Getting to a point, man, where
it's embarrassing.
Why? Yeah, it's embarrassing. Like, he's bringing the ball up the court and chanting MVP.
I mean, what else are you going to do? You're in Washington.
I know, but
it is embarrassing.
Like, have some fun.
The look on LeBron's face is like,
yeah, he's like, this is awkward, man. Hey, good stuff there, kid. It's awkward, man. It's awkward that his son's in there playing. I think it's also, listen, that's not a great look for Washington. That's them also mocking their own team.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the Wizards suck so much that we're gonna joke around about the Lakers being in town.
That's the thing.
That's how bad we are.
And guess what? Like, when you're that bad and then you finish dead last, you only get a 14% chance at Cooper Flag. Okay?
No guarantees.
So there's no guarantees here. That means, a pretty damn good chance you're not getting the best player in the draft.
Yeah.
So it's a dangerous thing to be in, but you need a lottery ticket, right? The Raptors need another player. You need multiple more players if they want to get to where they want to get to. And I guess right now, 9% chance at the number one pick if they finish where they finished today, which I guess is, hey, they won the Bargnani lottery with an 8% chance.
That's right. What a win that was.
What a win that was.
That was a big win. All right, final hour for the week coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.